Hello, Angel here. Welcome back to my channel if you've been here before, and if you're new, thank you for stopping by. So today we're doing a VR. It's a VR to Carrie at a Crone's life, hashtag Tarospection10. This was originally a hashtag created by Soul Shadow Museum. I'm going to link their videos in the description box, so take a dash on over to their channel after you've watched this one and give them some love and some likes. Okay, 10 prompts. All about our tarot journey, and we're jumping in with the first prompt, which is, if your tarot journey were to be a book, which card would be the cover art and why? That's a great prompt, I think, and my choice would be this card, which is the Eight of Cups from the Tarot at the End of the Rainbow. Now, I really enjoy this take on the Eight of Cups. I really like it that this person's walking out of a door with all their belongings in tow, in their backpack. Now, I really resonate with the whole backpack concept, merely because I think of the experiences and possibly the traumas and pains and hurts we've had in our lives. I kind of think of them as gathering them together and carrying them in a backpack. And if we gather too many of those things, too many of those traumas or sadnesses, sooner or later, you know, that backpack is going to get too heavy for us, and we need to, at some point, have the courage to put that backpack down and unpack it, to be able to pick it up and continue walking comfortably with. So that really resonates for me. This backpack is a backpack that I found at the charity shop. It's handmade, crocheted handmade, and I do a lot of poppet work, and I use this for my poppet. So anything I'm working on, any shadow work or anything like that, I tend to use this backpack for that. So I use it as like a what am I trying to say here? I'm just going to say I use it as a tool for my poppet. Sometimes I even have herbs in here. I even have crystals. I have petitions in here as well. I've done that. I've had those in here at times as well. So this is just a really important tool for me. And you know, the Eight of Cups, I started on my tarot journey and my beginner witch practice for healing work. That's what led me to this path. And there was a lot of things that I needed to leave behind that were no longer serving me. So this card specifically, and the Eight of Cups generally, really appeals to me. So that's my answer for prompt number one. Prompt number two, if I could mix two decks together to make a hybrid deck, which decks would they be? Now, I'm sure that we're looking for a deeper answer than the one I'm going to give you, but I'm going to give you this answer. This is the Marble Moon Tarot. This is the indie deck. The mass market version is the Rainbow Moon Tarot. And if you've seen my channel for a hot moment, you'll know that I love that deck. I would say that's my soul deck. And I found this one on eBay, secondhand, purchased it, love it. Not as keen on the cardstock, I've got to say. So I would really like it if I could mix this deck and this deck together. So now I'm thinking of cardstock. This is the Unfolding Path Tarot. This is the Kickstarter version. Let's just move this over slightly. And this one shuffles like a dream. So I wish that the Marble Moon Tarot had this cardstock. It's just gorgeous. It's just gorgeous. So I just wish that this deck had this cardstock. I still love this deck, but I would much appreciate it if I could get the same cardstock. So that's that. That would be my hybrid deck. I'm a major fan of that tarot deck. It's a really nurturing, comforting deck. And I tend to have it by my bed every evening and draw cards from it. So yes, prompt number three, was there a tarot deck that you weren't really feeling at first, but then it kind of grew on you? And what changed your mind? Now, I've shown this one before. This, and you've probably seen it and you might well own it, the Wild Unknown Tarot. This is the mass market version. Let's grab this, do this. These are the backs. I purchased this merely because you know, I watched a lot of tarot tube videos, and there's a lot of people that really like this deck, and then there's a lot of people that don't get along with this deck. And I was just really intrigued by it, and so I decided to purchase it, mass market obviously, and I had it on my tarot shelf for a long, long time. It didn't resonate for me at all. And then, I've spoken about this before, but I'm going to repeat myself. I decided that I wanted to connect to birch tree energy. And one day, the thought just struck me when I was looking at the birch tree bark, that this deck would totally connect me to that energy. And I think it's because of the birch tree bark has a lot of lines on it. Let's just grab this to show you. And so the line on the bark, you know, it totally reminded me of this deck. It's bizarre, but it's true. And so I went out in the woods with it and connected to the birch tree, and I got some amazing readings. So for that reason, I've connected to this deck on a totally different level. I would never have expected it. And I would go as far as even to say that I was kind of in the back of my mind, I had the thought of, should I get rid of that deck? Should I rehome it? Should I sell it? Should I give it away? Because I'm not going to use it. And then suddenly it just, you know, one day it just found its place in my collection, found its place in my practice. And this sits in my infamous tarot cart beside me at my desk. So I wouldn't be without this now. I would, you know, totally rebuy this if anything happened to this copy. Because I've made such a connection to it, and it, you know, I enjoy it so much. So that's interesting. You know, I can go from one day to the next, not being connected to a deck, not having a practice for it or a niche in my collection, and then, you know, just one day it would just suddenly find its place. So that's generally the reason I try not to rehome decks too quickly. I'm quite happy for them to sit on my tarot shelf and marinate. So that was prompt number 3. Prompt number 4, if you could actually step into any tarot card for the day, which card's realm would you want to dive into? Okay, that's an interesting question. And I'm going to grab another deck, which is this one. This is the Darkwood Tarot. This is a deck I've been using in September and a deck I'm using in October. And I think I would totally like to jump into this card, the 5 of Swords. If you've seen any of my videos, you'll know that I have had a real trouble remembering the 5 of Swords and the 7 of Swords, the meaning of both of those cards. They just never, ever stick in my brain. And I've been reading tarot for almost 3 years now, which isn't particularly very long. But the rest of the cards, you know, I'm happy with them. You know, I don't need to go to a guidebook to know what they mean. But those 2 cards, the 5 and the 7 of Swords, they just, doesn't matter what deck I look at, the meanings just don't stick. Until this deck come along. And this 5 of Swords, it totally, like, set off a light bulb in my brain. Now, I have done shadow work before, but the shadow side of myself hasn't particularly resonated for me. I mean, that term, shadow self, excuse me. But this card, when this came up in a reading for me, without going to the guidebook, this person in green, it's the thought, or the thought struck me of my jaded side, this person being in this dark green. And instead of thinking of my shadow side, I suddenly started thinking of my jaded side instead. And without going into too much detail, there has been quite a lot of trauma and mistrust in my life, which it has resulted in me sabotaging certain relationships with people. And so this totally spoke to me of, you know, my jaded side sabotaging the side of me that wants to make a clean start, make a clean break, start from a clean slate. And so the reading that I got from this card was that, you know, anytime I decide to take that leap of faith and show that innocence, my jaded side kind of sticks a knife in, and, you know, for protection, to protect us, I'm going to say, if you think of this as me, myself and I, both sides of myself, you know, the innocent side, the side that wants to start again, and this is my jaded side, or my shadow side almost. And so that's what this spoke to me of, self-betrayal, that I'm betraying myself, you know, probably with the best intentions, so as to not get hurt. And so for that reason, I would really like to step into this tarot card and explore that. And this was really interesting. This is why I've been having such an amazing experience with this deck this month and last, because it's just gave me a totally new insight into the jaded side of myself, which has appeared several times throughout this deck, which I'm going to go a bit more into in my October favourites video, and things that have been feeding my soul and filling my cup this month. So yes, that was prompt number 4. Prompt number 5. In your tarot readings, which card do you find to be the most changeable and versatile to interpret? Now, I'm going to go with this card, which is my total favourite. This is the Tower card from the Japaritsi Tarot. I've spoken about my favourite tarot card before. I'm going to link that video in the description box, so you can go and look at that if you want to. Now, it sounds bizarre. This is totally my favourite card. And the Tower card for me is obviously a very powerful card, quite an explosive card about change, transformation, you know, things, you know, what's the word? Being, you know, destruction and, you know, tumbling to the foundations and having to be rebuilt. But it also speaks to me of possibly trying too hard to hold things together when the cracks start to show, and not being ready to accept the fact that, you know, what you're trying so desperately hard to cling on to, really for your best intention, needs to, you know, come down and needs to fall, basically. This is the Tower card, sorry, from the Tarot of Mystical Moments. This is the Tower card from the Monsoon Tarot, and this was a totally new take for me on the Tower card. So I'm going to say that if you go back to that video about my favourite tarot card, you'll understand why this resonates for me so much. Just totally this card. And this depiction, because I've been in this moment. I've been in this Tower moment, most definitely, when you don't know up from down, and you don't know, you know, where you're going, how you got there, how you're going to get out of it, and you know, these waves of emotion just keep coming without any warning, and you don't know how to get your life back to what it was, you know, a few days before, or even a few moments before. So I really recognise this. I also recognise this with it not being necessarily, you know, something that's come out of the blue and out of, you know, just as a shock, that the cracks already been showing, and I'm saying you, but one has seen the cracks appearing and has just been desperately trying to hold it all together for as long as possible. Now this depiction of the Tower card with the water, this was new to me when I got the Monsoon Tarot home after backing it on Kickstarter. And, you know, usually you see the power, the fire, the destruction. And obviously there is some destruction going on here as well, but the water spoke to me of cleansing and even possibly healing, washing away the things that you thought you might have needed that maybe were not for your best interest. And so for me, the Tower card has turned into my favourite card, because I think it is quite versatile. You know, you can have those moments in your life when you're at the wrong place in the wrong time, and unfortunately, you know, that's just the way the cookie crumbles, and you end up in a situation like this when the rug is totally pulled out from under you. But you can also end up in the Tower moment when it's been slowly, you know, you've had those signals from the universe that, you know, something's got to change, and if you're not going to listen, the universe is going to take it into their own hands. And then there's also those moments when the Tower moment happens, and it is just for your best interest. It's to wash away all those things that were not necessary, and to even cleanse, and at some point heal as well. So for that reason, I find personally the Tower card very versatile, and I don't, you know, I don't worry as I used to when the Tower card came up. Yeah. So yes, that's those. That was prompt number 5. Okay, so moving on to prompt number 6. You're gonna hear the sound of a page turning now, because I'm old school and I like to write things down on paper. Okay, prompt number 6. A card that possesses qualities you admire but find challenging to apply to your life. We're going back to the Darkwood Tarot. Now I'm going to talk about this card. This is the Six of Pentacles. So I had a total epiphany when I got this card up in one of my readings. Taking in mind, we're still speaking about, you know, we're talking about the same theme as the Five of Swords with my jaded side. And this came up, and, you know, the Six of Pentacles for me is, you know, a give and take, a sharing, which totally makes sense. But this card, I was thinking about the figure in green. I'm going to pop this card beside so you kind of get a bit of an idea. And so we've got this figure in green, and we've got this figure in white. This is in a much lighter green than this figure, but still in green. And we've got this devil figure who's, you know, looks quite powerful on first glance. You know, he's towering over these two figures. However, when you look at it, I was thinking about this whole jaded side of myself, you know, self-sabotaging when I'm trying to, you know, start afresh, start a new beginning, wipe the slate clean. And after I pulled this card, I did some, I'm going to call it shadow work with my jaded side, about handing over the reins to this side of myself, to the side, this innocence, this side that wants to make a fresh start and have a clean slate. And I felt it was very interesting when a couple of days later, after finishing that work with my jaded side, and that this card came up, which totally, you know, I found really, really interesting, because you've got, you know, if we call this my jaded side, you know, signing the contract that they're going to hand the reins over to me. And you see that this devil figure, for want of another word, is, you know, giving this figure who, you know, looks quite desperate to, you know, their posture is forward. They're really trying to, you know, catch the coins in their hands. Whereas this figure looks much calmer and more resigned almost. And sorry, going back to the devil figure, I was thinking about, you know, this powerful figure, the devil towering over these two figures. However, he doesn't, you know, the facial expression, let's bring this a bit closer. The facial expression of this devil figure looks a bit uninterested, really. You know, glancing off into the future almost, or into the distance, not particularly bothered about what's going on. I feel that this figure looks quite resigned. They're resigned to what's happening here between these two figures. And so this giving and receiving, this giving and taking, this sharing, to me spoke of my shadow or jaded side, sorry, you know, handing the baton or the reins over to the other side of me that wants to make that clean start, that wants to leave those old patterns behind, that wants to have a clean slate. And so the devil, which, you know, going back to the devil card and this being in bonds and being trapped and, you know, keeping yourself in this comfort zone, which at the end is going to, you know, just not suffocate, but that's keeping you trapped. To me, this giving and taking was between these two figures, and almost this figure is disinterested because they no longer have power over these two. What was keeping them bonded or trapped or in chains has now been relinquished, and the jaded side is passing over control and the reins to this innocence, this new start, this clean slate. I hope that makes sense. It totally made sense to me, and I'm hoping that I'm explaining it, enough to you, or in a way that's clear to understand. So for that reason, I would love to step into this card. This was another card that I drew at the same time, the Two of Cups, which totally spoke to me of these two sides of myself, this connection, this trust. My jaded side giving trust to this other side that wants to make this new start. And so, yeah, this is totally the card I'd like to jump into. That was a really long explanation, but there you go. Anyway, so prompt number 7. If you could add a major card to the tarot, which card would you choose to create? That's a great question, and I couldn't think of an answer. So I'm going to instead choose an extra card from a tarot deck that really resonates for me, and that is this card. This is the Womb, card 22 from the Starseeker Tarot. Love this deck. Love this card. This feels almost like I wouldn't say a rebirth card, but more like a nurturing space to retreat to heal in, to become strong in, ready to emerge again once ready, once that healing and that recovery is done. And so that's the reason that I think this is probably one of my favourite extra cards in any of the tarot decks that I own. I do own quite a few with extra cards in, but this one, it jumped to my mind straight away because I really, really like this card. So that's that one. That was prompt number 7. Prompt number 8, share a card that represents you. Share a card that represents your current life mantra. And that is going to be this one. This is the Wheel of Fortune from the Horror Tarot. This is a new deck that I've been working with this month. Oh, sorry to pop the camera. Yeah, the wheel. I'm totally working with, it's going to sound very woo, but I'm going to say it anyway. I'm totally working with finding my centre. And in the moments of chaos, in the moments of, what's the word I'm looking for? Not just chaos, but uneasiness and fear. And I read it, I can't think where I read it, which I should have thought about it and looked it up to reference it, and I don't know where I read it recently, but I was reading about the Wheel of Fortune, and about the fact that this wheel is turning. Sometimes you're up and sometimes you're down, and for and this description was explaining that with this wheel that's turning, depending how fast the wheel is turning or in which direction the wheel is turning, there's always going to be this momentum. Whereas if you find your centre, if you go to the centre of the wheel and you find your own centre within the chaos, that is where you will be at your calmest. So when all this is raging around you and you don't know if you're if you're almost it doesn't matter if you're at the top of the wheel or at the bottom of the wheel, or how the wheel is turning. If you can find your centre in those moments, then you will always be calm and able to react from a place of thoughtfulness, or let's think about this. Let's see if I can write something exceptionally fantastic in editing on the screen. Yeah, fingers crossed and toes crossed that I'm writing something super duper fantastic to explain what I'm trying to say. So this card, really at the moment, there's a lot going on around me, and I do have a lot of patience, but I can have patience for a long time, and then suddenly it builds up, and then bang. And so I'm trying to find my center in those moments of chaos. So yes, for that reason, this is why this is why this card is my mantra just at the moment. And if you've seen any of my, if you saw my October reflections, or sorry, my September reflections, or my October intentions, you'll know that I'm working with a doll's house, and in that doll's house there is a specific room for my center, for the center of myself, so that I can work with that part of myself as well, and find that inner center and ground myself in that place, almost in those moments when I most need it. I hope that makes sense. Anyway, so that's that one. Okay, so prompt number 9: if you could invite 3 cards for dinner at your table, which ones would you pick? That was quite an easy question. The question is where I put the deck. It's here. Let's just grab this deck. So this was really, really simple, and this is the Tarot of Mystical Moments. I use this deck for ancestral work, and this is a totally intuitive deck for me. I read it very, very intuitively, and the voices of my ancestors come through very, very strongly. So I would pull, I would invite these 3 cards specifically, and I'm going to explain why. This card for me, the 5 of Wands, usually speaks of confusion and conflict, you know, and but however, this 5 of Wands speaks to me in several readings that I've had with this deck of my ancestor guides. And my first ancestor guide that came through to me was a feminine energy, I felt, which was the Knight of Cups. So this represents my ancestor guide, my first ancestor guide that came through to me. And my second guide that came through was the Page of Swords, which was a masculine energy that came through to me, which came through when I made a what's the word? When I, you know, almost said out loud that I was going to heal my issues that I have with the masculine. And a couple of days after I'd kind of, you know, made that vow to myself, this ancestor guide came through to me. And I had already had this card in a reading when I first started using the Tarot of Mystical Moments. And I'd been working with this deck, you know, maybe a year or something before my second guide came through. And when I saw this picture again, just as a fluke, I suddenly noticed that the first piece on the chessboard was a feminine person, or a feminine figure, and the second figure, which this person has their hand on, is a masculine figure, which was really, really interesting to me, considering that the first ancestral guide that came through to me was a feminine energy, I felt, and the second was a masculine energy, which is very interesting because these other ancestral guides haven't come through as yet. So for that reason, there was some more to this reading, which I'm not going to go into, but for that reason, these are the 3 cards that I would invite to my table. Knight of Cups, 5 of Wands, Page of Swords. So yes, that is that. Okay, finally, prompt number 10. Imagine offering advice to the tarot card you like the least. What would it be? Right. Okay. Are you ready for this? I don't think you're going to like my answer, but I'm gonna say it anyway. I'm going to show you the card. Let's grab it here. It would be this one, Temperance. And I'm not so sure I would offer temperance advice. But what I would say to Temperance is, please, 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 please just make your message clear to me. I mentioned earlier that the 5 and the 7 of Swords are cards that never ever stick in my brain for the meanings. Those meanings of those cards, obviously before the Darkwood Tarot, they'll definitely stick in my brain now. But before that, they never stuck in my brain. And the same with Temperance. I just don't get temperance. It doesn't matter how many guidebooks I read, doesn't matter how many tarot books I read, and how many times I read about temperance. I get the temperance card up and I go, and I have to go to the guidebook. So my piece of advice, or not even advice to temperance, my plea to temperance would be, please just give me your message. Please just help me and, tell me your message. So that's it. Those were the 10 prompts. Thank you very much to the peeps that made the videos and created the tags. It was a really enjoyable tag to take part in. Let me know what you think of any of the answers, any of the decks. Yeah, otherwise I'm going to thank you for watching. Have a lovely morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in this lovely world. Take care, and I hope to see you for the next video. Toodaloo!